How do you be a great mentor?
I think you just straight up give advice. Not even like option. I think sometimes you just actually advise people like I think this is the best path. And the phrase that I would introduce for that is my current best thinking, right? Because mentors don't have all the right answers. But I think mentors, when they speak from a place and begin sentences with the phrase, my current best thinking is, and then they give you that, like, it's kind of a cheat code to life. Like mentors that have told me, like, skip this, just do this. Like when you're in a conversation with a client about money, just use this phrase. And it's like, I've used that phrase for the last 10 years. Thank you, Rod Lee. Right. And so it's like that kind of stuff is like really, really valuable.
Mm, okay. So my answer is a little different. I think I would uh, build on your answer, which is another tip that I learned from you in one of your videos is to start with for me. For me, I would do such and such. And then I would finish with a question. If you're inclined to give advice, how might that look different for you? Or what am I missing? Right? Or whose perspective do we need to add here? So give your best advice, but always follow up with a question to make sure that it's something that lands authentically.
Yeah. So that I need to give credit for that for me to a woman named Meg Bolger, who created Safe Zone Project and a couple of other these cool facilitator cards. But that was actually shared in the context of those two words being really good to stretch people into being more inclusive. So, right, so this is really expensive for me. This is not expensive for me. And you realize, when I say this is expensive or not expensive, it's different for other people. And so just like a reminder to tag on to the end of sentences, which is great to tag on to for advice. I love that, Lisa.
Beautiful.
Okay, number 2.
Okay, next one. What skills do you gain from mentoring?
So in some ways, this setup was I was mentoring a group by sharing some ideas in response to questions that you asked. And what I learned as I went through is like I never quite articulated the organic versus genetically modified banana analogy in terms of connection and like letting your connections rot. And so I learn language, and similar to how a comedian does a whole bunch of small sets to test out jokes and be like, "Ooh, gosh, no one laughed at this one 3 times in a row. We're gonna kill it." And then by the time they get to the arena, all their jokes are amazing, or most of their jokes are really amazing because they've tested them. And so similarly, when you're mentoring and you can see the impact over time, you're like, this just seems to work. People remember this. All my students have texted me or called me a year, 2 year, 10 years later and told me this was really valuable. So I should repeat it over and over. That's one thing that you learn when you're mentoring.
There's so many things, right? I mean, I think one of the things that I think is the best benefit of mentoring for mentors is this ability to expand your leadership, your own leadership skills by gaining additional perspectives. Great mentors are great listeners. Great mentors can really create the sense of empathy and compassion where they can step in their mentees' shoes and start to see things differently. And we hear over and over again from mentors that they started to see their own career differently. They started to see their own organization differently, and they could really lead better because of that expanded perspective. Super exciting benefit of this relationship.
One of the old school founders or like godfathers of AI, who I'm forgetting his name, Robert Shank, something like that. He just passed away recently. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He described intelligence one time as the number of cases you have in your brain. And so it's like somebody with 40 years of education experience has taught so many students that when they see a new student, they're like, oh, you kind of remind me of Robbie. And this worked really well for Robbie. And so I'm going to apply that here. And so the idea of just like racking up the number of cases is a really good way to get smarter, of just like, tell me more about this instance. Tell me more about this instance. So I've been mentoring myself by just taking this one question on a quest, which is, as a parent, how do you deal with technology and cell phones? And so I've racked up probably 50 cases of how different sets of parents have managed their tech. And I've got a few that I think are like really, really wise. And I don't know yet because I haven't tried it out. But that number, my hope is that number of cases is useful when it comes time to actually put it to work.
Love that. I love that. Okay. So how does an adult find a mentor when there's not a formal mentoring program?
click open 10, if they're not a student, click open 10 LinkedIn tabs and find something you're naturally, genuinely curious about that person, somebody that you would like to meet or potentially be mentored by. Maybe even let's lower the bar, not even be mentored by, but you'd like to learn something from this person. And click open 10 other tabs, follow your natural curiosity, and send them a message with a single question asking for their advice or perspective related to some curiosity that you have. And ideally for me, I like to make sure that it's fairly low commitment to them. So the question, will you be my mentor, is not a low commitment question. It's like right beneath, will you get married? Will you marry me? And so reaching out and saying, hey, I noticed that you worked for blank organization for 5 years. I'm wondering if you could go back 10 years from now and apply for a job, what's something that you'd really want to be deliberate about doing as you're applying for that job? Just like pretty easy to answer. They're probably going to be happy to offer. And chances are they might even click your profile and check out who the heck is asking a question like that. Because usually people are just sending automated messages trying to sell you stuff on LinkedIn.
Yeah, no, that's great. My answer is actually a precursor to that answer, which is to ask a different question. Don't ask the question who. The first question you need to be asking when you want to find a mentor is what? What is it that I want to learn? What is it that I need from mentoring? What is it that I'm looking for? What are the qualities of a mentor that I want to find? And then you can go to LinkedIn and open your 10 tabs. But if you don't know that first, then you are creating a relationship. Then you are looking for a mentoring that is not founded on learning. And learning is the purpose, the process, and the product of mentoring. So you need to first really think about what it is that you want to be learning and what it is you need from mentoring before you open the 10 tabs.
Virtual high five for that one. That was brilliant. Love it.
Thank you. Okay. Well, last question. What is the difference between mentoring and coaching?
I'm going to answer a question with a question, which is, go back to my milk here. I'm going to answer a question with a question, which is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much does the answer to that question matter? I don't know the answer to that, but I'm like, if we solved it, if we figured it out, we were like, aha, this is the difference between coaching and mentoring. I do think there are differences. And they're probably little t truths different for everybody. And so the idea of like getting the whole world to come to an agreement of what coaching and mentoring is, like, I'd rather do something else.
I love it. I love it. I love the boldness. I have a much more practical mentoring discipline answer, which I'm sure does not surprise you. Which I'm excited to hear it. That there are 3 characteristics of a mentoring relationship. There's the reciprocity, co-creation, and learning. And in coaching, you don't have the reciprocity and the co-creation. You still have the learning, but you don't have the co-creation of the relationship, and you don't have the reciprocity. It's not that coaches don't benefit, right? But it's that the purpose of the relationship isn't as the reciprocity that is a mentoring relationship. And we could go so much deeper on that one topic right now.